What's up, everybody? Coming up, we got UFC Macau, Song Yadong versus Davis and Figueiredo, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. Let's rock and roll right into this thing. Our first fight on the card, we have Loma Lookboonmee versus Jacqueline Amorim. I feel like this is a tricky fight to predict here because Jacqueline Amorim is the much better grappler. She has very high-level jiu-jitsu skills, and if she can get the fight to the floor, I think Loma is going to be in a ton of trouble. And I know that we've seen improvements in Loma's ground skills, right? Her takedown defense has been much better. She does a very good job of not really putting herself in bad position. She can scramble really well. But Jacqueline, to me, is just on another level on the mat. But the problem is, Amorim is difficult to trust. Because on the feet, even though she's going to have a massive reach advantage here, she's not going to utilize her reach very well. She just kind of plunges into range, doesn't have particularly good defense, is very, very hittable. And we've seen that her gas tank is very suspect. We've seen in a lot of these fights, she can come out there, take you down, dominate you on the floor, find a way to get you out of there with some nasty ground and pound, excellent submission skills. She's a very sticky grappler when she can get the fight into her world. And I think in the first round, she's going to have a ton of success. Now, whether she's able to submit Loma or not, that's where I'm not sure. Because if Amorim can keep Lookboonmee down for a significant amount of time, not only do I think that she will win the fight and can win on minutes, but I think that she will find some sort of submission in this fight if she can implement her game. But I have a hard time trusting Amorim. I think that early on she'll have success. Lookboonmee will stay safe. She'll get back to the feet. And on the feet, Loma's got excellent Muay Thai skills. She's very good in the clinch as well, to where, yeah, Amorim is the better overall grappler, but as she starts to slow down, as she starts to fatigue, I know Loma's not the most dangerous fighter in the world despite being a very technical striker, but she's got good elbows, good knees, and I think that those shots to the body can slow down that forward pressure of Jacqueline Amorim. And then that's where Loma can just kind of pick her apart at range, mix in the kicks, mix in the knees, and then even slice her up with some elbows in close. I think that Loma is going to battle some early adversity in this fight, but as the fight starts to play out, I think Amorim will slow down, and then that's where Loma can start to pull away and get the better of the striking exchanges. But like I said, I feel like it's a tricky matchup because Amorim is very, very good on the ground. And I think that, we've seen some good improvements in Loma's game, right? We've seen over her past several fights, beating Denise Gomes, was able to submit Elise Reed to where we kind of saw the evolution in the ground game. That was 3 years ago. So Loma's made, leaps and bounds in improvements in her game. And most recently losing to Alexia Teixeira, not a bad loss. Alexia is one of the best prospects in all of women's MMA right now. I think she would absolutely destroy Jacqueline Amorim, in my opinion. I think Amorim's very skilled. It's just very difficult to trust her because if she could get you down and get you out of there early and get you out of there in a hurry, she's very, very dangerous in that way. But as the fight starts to play out, she starts to slow down, the body language, you start to see kind of these bad signs. And I know she's, training over at ATT, right? Loma training over at Bang Tao, excellent camps here. They're going to be very prepared, come in with good game plans. But I think it's basically your classic striker versus grappler. But in the clinch, Loma has a very good game to where I could see her wearing on Amorim as the fight starts to play out. So I think if Jacqueline wins, she's dominating on the deck, controlling Loma. Loma's a little bit, worried to get back to her feet because she's worried about getting submitted. And I could see her losing on control time. Maybe Amorim finds some sort of submission, which I think is pretty likely in this fight, despite, us seeing improvements in Loma's grappling skills. But I am going to side with Lookboonmee because if she is able to have the answers for the ground skills, if Amorim starts to slow down, Loma is much better on the feet. Her Muay Thai is excellent. Like I said, not the most ferocious finisher, which, can be a little bit worrisome. And if you got to point to a fighter that's more dangerous, I would say that it's Jacqueline. Even though she's not, as technical as Loma, she has the dangerous grappling threat. That can set up the hands. We've seen Amorim does have some power on the feet. Tricky matchup here, but I'm going to side with Loma here. She's got a ton of experience in the UFC. Hasn't fought necessarily the most high-level grapplers, right? So that's something that does concern me, and I think that there's some things that, Amorim can implement that we saw like Teixeira, but I don't know that Amorim has the same striking threat as a Teixeira to get the respect of Lookboonmee in this fight, and I like the work that Loma does in the clinch. I think that that's something that can wear on Amorim in this fight. So I'm going to say a split decision, 29-28 for Loma Lookboonmee. I think that she loses the first round. Amorim will dominate her, and then that's where we'll see Loma start to pick it up and outscore out in space with her excellent Muay Thai striking. Close fight, tough one to call, but I'll side with the Muay Thai striker here in Loma Lookboonmee to get it done. Next, we have Kengji Zhu versus Rodrigo Vera. Man, I feel like this is another tough one to call. Two fighters that I don't, given what we've seen from them coming into this spot, it's hard to know what level they're really at. Now, when we look at Zhu, he's got some nasty power on the feet. Very, very explosive striking, throws really good shots up the middle. He's got a good knee he likes to use, an uppercut. He's a very powerful striker, and he's one of those guys that, he can put out some output, but he's really, playing that seek and destroy game, looking to land that big shot to put you out of there. So his fights are very fun to watch. But I feel like something's telling me, despite this nice win streak that he's on, he's getting a lot of these guys out of there, right? Coming off a road to the UFC, some impressive stuff on there. Like I said, he's very explosive. What worries me for him in this fight is Rodrigo Vera, I think, is the more well-rounded fighter. Now, here's what does kind of cause me a little bit of pause maybe with Rodrigo Vera. Wasn't this guy supposed to be on The Ultimate Fighter? So, isn't that going on right now? So, what happened there? It's like we basically thought he was going to be on The Ultimate Fighter, and now all of a sudden he's on this card going down in China. But off of what I've seen from Rodrigo, they must have saw something, wanting him on tough, right? This dude, what we've seen, at least what I can find, he's well-rounded. He's a dog. He'll push the pace. He'll walk you down, get into the phone booth. He is not afraid of a firefight. And that could potentially be the downfall for him in this fight because we've seen that Zhu does have that power. He welcomes that, brawling style of fight. But I think Vera is going to fight smart. He will pressure him intelligently. And whenever Zhu loads up on some of those big shots, that's where Rodrigo can duck underneath, get his hands locked, and take him down because I think Vera has the grappling advantage. We've seen that, throughout his career. He's got good ground and pound. He's got some power on the feet, and he knows how to win fights, right? He can win minutes. He can control you up along the octagon side, take you down, get into some dominant positions. He does have a submission threat, some good ground and pound as well. From what I've seen, I feel like Vera is just a more well-rounded fighter here. Maybe you could say Zhu is the better striker given what we've seen and maybe the more dangerous one-shot knockout artist. But given off of the strength of schedule, I feel like it's a tough read coming into this one. But I'm going to side with Rodrigo Vera given the fact that I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. And I like the fact that he has the grappling that he can implement to where I think that he can get Zhu down. Maybe early, it's a little bit, kind of tough because Zhu's going to be fast, explosive, excited to be in the UFC. He's going to be coming out guns blazing. But that's where Rodrigo kind of has this veteran poise that I see to his style where even if he gets cracked, he doesn't really kind of shy away, doesn't really panic. And I think that that's going to pay off for him in this fight. But 21, 1-1, he's got a lot of experience. 30 years of age. I think that this is a fun fight, but I'm going to side with Rodrigo because of the grappling upside. And I think on the feet, while he might not be as dangerous, he mixes up the shots very well. Can blitz in with the boxing combos, can mix in the kicks as well. And I just can see Zhu loading up. That's where Vera gets his hands locked, takes him down, keeps him down, beats him up a little bit, wears on him and wins decision. But that's where Vera's pace and pressure will start to take over as the fight plays out to get this one done on the cards. Next, we got, this is a good fight here, Angela Hill versus Xiong. Now, the panda here, Xiong, she's got a very fun style to watch, right? Over and won championship. She's got excellent boxing. I think she was on the Chinese national team. She's got really, really fun striking to watch. Now, the interesting thing is now she's, coming into the UFC here at 38 years of age. Not very often that you see a fighter that's very established outside the UFC come over so late, right? So it's not like she's some sort of prospect here. She's got a ton of experience, big opportunity here in China, and she's got a very, very seasoned veteran in front of her in Angela Hill. And listen, I know that Angela Hill is 41 years of age. She's been in there with good opposition, right? We could say that she's been slowing down. We saw that against Fatima Klein, but who's she been in there with? She's been in there with some of the better fighters on the come up in the weight class, right? And, most recently, well, not most recently, about a year ago when she was able to get it done against Ketlin Souza, we know Souza's got some power, right? And it was really the footwork and the output of Angela Hill that was able to get it done. And that's really the strength of Angela's game, is she could just throw punches and bunches, mix in the kicks, doesn't have a ton of finishing threat, but she can mix up the striking variety very, very well, and it looks good to the judges. And I can easily see in this fight Xiong hunting for those big boxing combos, throwing the more, powerful shots. But if she's not able to sting Hill and damage her up, then I could see Angela Hill running away with this one and pulling off an upset here based on volume and output. But I am going to side with Xingnang Xiong in this fight to get this one done by a decision. I just feel like Angela Hill, despite being maybe the more well-rounded striker, the more well-rounded fighter at this point, the one that's been established in the UFC, kind of a journeywoman, so to speak, right? She'll win some, she'll lose some. She's always game, very durable, very tough, a great gas tank, can push a pace. I think that this is going to be a competitive fight. I'm going to say 29-28 Xiong here. I just feel like the difference is going to be, while Angela Hill striking is okay, there's not a ton of danger there, to where I feel like with Xiong, she's going to have the more damaging shots. She's going to be ripping the boxing combos to the body, bringing the shots around the guard. We've seen her, be able to grapple a little bit. I think this is a striking battle on the feet. It's kind of the pitter-patter output of Hill versus the powerful boxing of Xiong. I'm going to side with the damage in this fight in Xiong to get this one done in a close one. But like I said, don't count out Angela Hill in this fight, because I know that she's 41. She's slowed down a little bit, but Angela always shows up in very, very good condition to push a pace. And listen, it's Xiong's first fight in the UFC, so I'm not going to go all in and say she's like the next big thing in the strawweight division. Like, I got to see a little bit first, so I'm erring on the side of caution here. I think Hill has a real shot to win this fight. I think it's going to be close, but I will side with the boxing that Xiong brings to the table. Her pressure, her movement. I think that she can outdamage Angela Hill and land the bigger shots in this fight in order to get this one done in a close one over a game veteran in Angela Hill, who's always fun to watch. Next, we got Ray Tsuruya versus Luis Gurule. Now, this is interesting because it was supposed to be Ray Tsuruya versus Jesus Aguilar, and I was going to pick Ray Tsuruya all day long over Jesus Aguilar because, Jesus Aguilar's got the little T-Rex arms, right? He's got probably the shortest reach in the UFC. He's a duck and chuck fighter, right? Ducks his head, wings these overhand punches to where that's a disaster against a really good grappler like Ray Tsuruya, who's going to be able to shoot in, get to your hips, take you down, control you, and Tsuruya's got excellent submission skills. And now, out is Jesus Aguilar, in steps Luis Gurule, who literally just fought this past weekend, right, against Daniel Barras, to where he looked dang impressive. And I know that Barras is a little bit older, and I expected more from Barras in this fight. He's got some dangerous striking, right? Luis Gurule looked really good in this fight. And I'm not quite sure if it's a combo of, Luis looked really good, or if maybe I was a little bit too high on Barras at this point in his career. But either way, Gurule looked impressive. And I think that this is actually a much more difficult fight for Ray Tsuruya. And I was going to pick Ray Tsuruya to beat Jesus Aguilar. So this prediction here, I haven't been able to, because this basically just got announced right before me recording this video at the time of me recording this. I'm kind of leaning Luis Gurule in this fight, man, with some early thoughts here, because here's my take on this. And this is an early prediction. Maybe this changes at the end of the week. Ray Tsuruya, I understand the last loss was to Joshua Van, who's the champion, one of the best boxers in the UFC. Joshua Van is as legit as it gets, man. So I don't fault Ray Tsuruya for losing this fight whatsoever, right? And he looked impressive against Carlos Hernandez in the debut, right? Coming off road to the UFC. We've seen his skills. He's a very, very good grappler. He's 23, almost 24. I feel like he's one of these guys that he's going to have the reach advantage, but on the feet, he's a little bit worrisome to me. And I feel like on the feet, Luis Gurule is a lot better. And I know that Luis doesn't have a ton of power, but we saw him landing some good shots on Perez. He was landing some powerful shots with the boxing. He's got some good leg kicks as well. And Gurule's got one of these styles where he's not the best grappler in the world, but he's a very good scrambler. He's very strong for the weight class. And he doesn't really accept, these bottom positions. And I can see him really, really being a pest for Tsuruya to deal with. Now, having said that, I think Ray Tsuruya is very good. I think his ground skills are very good, and I think that there's the possibility that he goes out here, backpacks Gurule, finds a submission, just controls him on the deck, and wins a decision that way, because I think Tsuruya is very good. And I know it's short notice for Gurule, but I feel like there's something to be said about a guy who came into the UFC off the Contender Series, where we saw some good grappling in this fight against Nick Piccinini, which was, very impressive. But look at the strength of schedule for Luis, a guy that I was kind of high on, and now it's kind of fallen off a little bit. right? Ode Osborne's a dangerous striker. Very dangerous striker, right? Jesus Aguilar, and I get it. Well, Tsuruya, I was going to pick him to beat Aguilar. Styles make fights. And it's not a great look that Aguilar was able to outstrike Luis Gurule, but Aguilar's got some power on the feet, right? Alden Correa, incredibly good on the feet. Really, really good boxing, right? And this win, I just feel like this is something where Gurule is going to build some momentum here, right? And you could say, well, now he's got to travel all the way to China. How's that? He just fought, cutting weight again. All of those are factors. But something tells me that the momentum that Luis is going to carry into this fight, he's going to be a difficult guy for Tsuruya to deal with. Gurule's got, he's well coached over at Factory X Muay Thai. His striking, I think, is much better than Tsuruya. He's got a little bit of sting in his hands, can mix in the kicks, and I think he's going to be a difficult guy to hold down to where when he gets back to the feet, we see Tsuruya get rather uncomfortable at times. And listen, I'm not even, I'm not worried about this loss. Joshua Van is unbelievable, and he would destroy Luis Gurule. But I got a feeling that Luis Gurule is going to be able to scramble, get back to the feet, and he's got it's just one of these things where styles make fights. And early lean, I'm going to say that Luis Gurule edges it out on the scorecards and gets this one done in the close one. Because if Tsuruya cannot keep him down consistently and cannot submit him, and this is stuck on the feet, I think Gurule, despite being at a reach disadvantage here and Tsuruya being a little bit bigger and maybe a little bit stronger in the grappling, I think Gurule has shown some good ability to be able to scramble and cause some solid grapplers some problems. So I think this is an interesting fight, but I think it's actually a tougher one for Tsuruya than Jesus Aguilar, because Aguilar was probably going to try to jump guillotine, which then he's going to accept the bottom position, and then Tsuruya is now on top of him, and that just creates a whole different puzzle to where with Gurule, he's probably not going to do that. He's going to look to scramble, look to get back to his feet. Not the easiest guy to hold down. I'm going to side early lean with Luis Gurule, but we'll see if this changes later in the week, because I originally was going to pick Tsuruya, but stylistically something tells me that Gurule might be a much more difficult fight than Jesus Aguilar for Ray Tsuruya. Next, we got Cody Haddon versus Aoriqileng. This is a good fight because Aoriqileng, this dude's fun to watch. Right, he'll win some, he'll lose some, but his last performance against Cody Gibson was dang impressive, right? Sparked him out. It was nasty, right? And then before that, got dominated on the deck by Raul Rosas, who's a very, very good grappler, so no harm, no foul there, right? The Marcos fight, Johnny Munoz Jr. was able to put him away, right? Got knocked out brutally by Ayman Zahabi, which, look, I know Ayman Zahabi is, he was underrated for a while, and now it's like, okay, he's about to be fighting Sean O'Malley at the White House, and we see that Ayman Zahabi is a very good fighter, but in terms of the danger factor, I just don't know that getting knocked out by Zahabi is the greatest look, and I know it was set up very well. Zahabi kind of looked like he was going in for a level change, stepped through, caught him with a left hook, so kind of scrambled the brain of Aoriqileng before he knocked him out. I think on the feet, Aoriqileng can strike with a lot of guys. He's got a ton of power. He's fast. He's explosive. But one of the problems that I think he's going to have in this fight is Cody Haddon is really, really well-rounded. And I think that on the feet early, Aoriqileng is going to be very dangerous. He's going to be looking to land that big shot, but his defense tends to let him down at times. And we've seen that Aoriqileng, he's tough, he's durable, right? We've seen a guy like Zahabi be able to get to him. But something tells me that he's going to have a hard time with Cody Haddon in this fight. And I really like what I've seen from Cody Haddon, man, right? I liked him before the UFC, came on the DWCS, finished Billy Brandt, was able to get to the back and submit him, had a nice debut against Dan Argueta. And what I like about Haddon is he's got very good striking. He's very patient on the feet. And I know he's been away for a little while now. It's almost been 2 years, right? He was banged up, so he's been out for a while. But I think he's going to come back refreshed, rejuvenated, and I think that this is a fight where, yes, Aoriqileng, I'm not going to count him out because he's very, very dangerous on the feet, and of course you could catch Haddon with a shot and put him away, but from what we've seen from Haddon, he's durable, he's tough, and he's very, very technical. His boxing is really good, fights behind good, long, straight combos, rips to the body well, can mix in some kicks here and there, and then he also has the ability to grapple at a pretty decent level. So I think that from what we've seen from Cody Haddon, I think he's going to be able to mix it up on Aoriqileng and be able to outscore him, outdamage him, and win a decision. I'm going to say 30-27, but it would not surprise me. I'm looking at my notes over here to make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, so I have Cody Haddon by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to get him out of there, like a round 2 ground and pound stoppage or even a submission, because I think that highly of Cody Haddon. I think that, he was supposed to fight Malcolm Wallmaker, and now knowing what we know about Wallmaker, maybe Haddon wins that fight. right? Haddon's got really, really good boxing. I think he's the more technical striker. Maybe you could say Aoriqileng has, more devastating, like one-shot power. But Aoriqileng's defense, I think, on the feet is going to let him down. Haddon will kind of pick him apart. He can, feint the level changes. And as soon as he starts to introduce grappling into this fight, I think that can make Aoriqileng a little bit more gun-shy to where Haddon can start to outland him, outdamage him, and get it done on the scorecard. So wouldn't be surprised if someone gets a stoppage here, but I'm going to side with Cody Haddon. Clean sweep across the cards, 30-27. I think he's a legit prospect. Very well-rounded. I like what I've seen from him. He can mix it up. He can submit you, knock you out. I think that he has more ways to win than Aoriqileng in this fight, and I think that Haddon can push a pace and make Aoriqileng uncomfortable as the fight goes. Give me Haddon to get it done. Next, we got Meng Ding versus Jose Henrique. Another one of these fights where I'm just like, man, how can you really be confident here? Right? You look at Meng Ding and you're like, ding, ding. No, you're like, hey, man, 35-9. And what I like about Meng is this dude, he's going to go out there and he is going to chuck leather. He is going to look to take your head off. He's got a pretty competent ground game, right? We've seen him have some issues on the deck, but we've also seen him have some success against opponents, right? He knows what he's doing on the ground. On the feet, that's kind of where he really likes to duke it out, right? He's got a ton of power in his hands. He's got some good kicks as well, but he's a little bit defensively irresponsible for my liking. And I think it's very possible that he could go out here and floor Jose Henrique, put it on him, knock him out, all those kinds of things, because I do think that Ding he's good, man. He's got some dinging combinations, man. He'll start to let the power go, and he's not scared. And I like watching this guy fight. I like what I was seeing. But the problem is I feel like Jose Henrique is not some guy that's just going to go out there and just get like mowed over by Ding here. And what we've seen from Ding is if he's not able to put you away early, sometimes the output starts to slow down. That pop, that kind of pizzazz, right, where he's stepping into these shots and he's all eager. You kind of see it slow down a little bit, right? And when he's winning, it's very impressive, right? He's knocking people out. They're highlight reel KOs. But this fight right here against Hamad, it was like he started fast, and then we started to see Rami put it on him, and then most recently getting a nice win. I just feel like Jose Henrique is going to be able to win this fight. And I think he's going to be able to stop Meng Ding late in this fight. And listen, it's not because I'm so high on Jose Henrique here, because I got a lot of questions about him as well, right? I think he lost, on DWCS almost 4 years ago, but that was almost 4 years ago, right? He's on a 3-fight win streak, hasn't been the most active guy, right? And I know that Jose Henrique is not necessarily the most dangerous, but he's 24 years of age. I think he's made some nice improvements, and he's got a very long, rangy frame for this weight class, and he's a lot more technical, in my opinion, than Meng Ding. Like, I think that Ding has, like, the more, show-stopping power, but I think that Henrique is more technical, and we've seen that Henrique can kind of mix in the clinch, land some good knees, some good elbows, where he's going to be a little bit taller, have a reach advantage here. He fights well behind the jab. He's got a good straight right hand, and I just think the defense of Ding, if he doesn't get that early finish, I feel like that's where Henrique is going to be able to kind of dog this one out. And from what we've seen from Henrique, this loss here, I mean, he got stopped, but it was later on in the fight. And I feel like he's not the easiest guy to put away. Got some of that tall man defense, which is a little bit worrisome, but he's got kind of those long limbs, some slappy shots, good shots in close. I think that he can just kind of win a weird, bizarre, back-and-forth, action-packed fight to where it's Looney Tunes, like where Ding's swinging these big shots. Henrique's just kind of noodle-arming these punches, but it'll come down to Henrique having more success in the clinch, in the grappling, and just being the more technical guy when I think Ding will start to slow down as the fight plays out. Maybe it goes to the, to the scorecards here, but I'm going to side with Jose Henrique, the more technical guy. I think that straight right hand is going to find a home at some point where he's able to kind of melt Ding in round number 3. Fun fight here. Like, not the most high-level thing, right? I got a lot of questions about, kind of where these guys will go in the UFC and in terms of what level they're really at. But I think it'll be a fun fight because they're on maybe a similar level with a similar skill set. Give me Henrique. I think he's got a more well-rounded game, and he'll pick his shots a little bit better to get this one done. But, of course, I could see Ding going out there and dinging him right down, man, and knocking him out with a big power shot. So, fun fight here. Next, we got Luis Felipe Diaz versus Yi-Sok Lee. Another one, man. Another one. DJ Dude, I just don't know with some of these fights because it's like there's not a whole lot to go off of. Now, what really kind of has me leaning in the direction of Diaz is I've at least seen him on the Contender Series. Now, I will say this. This dude's physique throughout the years has very, very much changed. Like, he has turned himself into an absolute monster. So I don't know what's going on there. Right? And it's not like he had the most impressive performance 7 months ago to DWCS against Donovan Hedrick, but we at least got to see him at like a level like DWCS, right? So I've at least seen a little bit more from him. And in this fight, I think it has the potential to be a firefight. But where I think Lee is going to run into some issues is I think on the feet, Diaz is more technical. I think he's the better striker on the feet. I'm not saying that Luis is super great on the feet. He's got some good straight shots down the pipe, good straight right hand that I do think is going to find a home on the chin of Lee in this fight. But I think it's going to be Lee looking to pressure him, take down Diaz, get to his grappling, and that's kind of where things are going to go south because I think Diaz has a sneaky ground game. We saw it on Dana White Contender Series. We've seen it on the regional scene. If you take him to the ground, he could do a good job of sweeping, bumping, reversing positions, getting into a dominant spot, getting to your back, and I just feel like at some point in this fight, that's where, he's going to be tagging up Lee early on. He's going to get back to the stool and be like, I'm going to have to do something different in round 2, and that is where Lee's going to shoot a takedown. Diaz is going to reverse, get to the back, maybe even sting him with a shot as Lee's trying to, pressure, get to the way in. And that's where Diaz is going to be able to take his back and find a rear naked choke in round number 2. So I'm going to take Luis Felipe Diaz in this matchup by round 2 submission. Again, it's hard to know where these guys are at level-wise. I think Lee he seems like he's a dog. He'll move forward, right? We saw him get rear naked choked, almost a year ago. So I feel like Diaz can do something similar here. And I think on the feet, Diaz is more precise. He's a strong guy. It'll be interesting to see what the scales look like in terms of Diaz's physique because he looked in insane shape on this DWCS fight. So got some questions there, something to keep an eye on. But I think he's the more skilled fighter at this point, and I think that Lee will look to grapple, and then that'll play right into the hands of Diaz, who's got a good submission game. So give me Diaz to get this one done. If Lee gets it done, maybe you could find a way to stop Diaz on the ground, find a submission, beat him up with some ground and pounder, control him, and get it done on the cards. But I think Diaz, his submission game will get it done here. Next, this is a good fight. I'm very excited for this fight. We got Alex Perez versus Sumudaerji. Man, Sumudaerji is like one of these guys that at one point, it was, a couple years ago, we're like, where is this guy, right? Because he got submitted by Tim Elliott, loses to Charles Johnson, and it's like, okay, he's losing to some of the top guys in the weight class, but recently, it just feels like Sumudaerji's game has went to another level. Right, his takedown defenses look spectacular, right? This fight against Mitch Raposo, I didn't think it was a split decision. I thought Sumudaerji clearly won this fight. But Mitch Raposo's got that lower center of gravity. He's got solid wrestling. He's got very good boxing skills. We saw Sumudaerji stuff the takedowns, get back to his feet, and pick him apart at range. We saw a similar kind of thing against Kevin Borjas, was able to keep him at range at the edge of his shots. And then most recently, this might have been the most impressive performance to date against Jesus Aguilar. And I know that Jesus isn't exactly a world beater, but we know he's got some power. We know he's got a submission game. And Sumudaerji was shucking off the takedowns like it was nothing. And then he was out grappling Aguilar. So it's like Sumudaerji went from this guy who were like, man, he's a great striker on the feet. He's got a crazy frame for the flyweight division. He's 5'8", got a 72-inch reach. He's a southpaw. He's a very snappy, fast striker. And it was like, we don't have questions about his striking. It's like, well, what about the grappling? And now throughout the years, his takedown defense is on that level of almost, I would say, almost brick wall takedown defense like. He does such a good job up along the fence, defending takedowns, the technique, everything that you're supposed to do is what Sumudaerji is doing. What worries me for him in this fight is Alex Perez is much better than a guy like Jesus Aguilar or Mitch Raposo. Now, I will say that I think Raposo is a better boxer than Alex Perez, but Perez is a super experienced guy. He's fought some of the best dudes in this weight class. He's got dangerous striking on the feet. We saw that where he landed the perfect left hook right on like the ear or the back, side of the dome of Charles Johnson, was able to rock him and get him out of there, right? Was dominating Asu Almabayev, which is incredibly impressive because Almabayev is a very good wrestler. And Almabayev, I thought, was easily down 0-2. And then he, Shavkat's in his corner. He's like, brother, you got to go for the back choke. And so he's like, okay, I'll submit him, man. And that if he doesn't do that, he loses. He loses the fight. So Perez was beating a very good grappler in Almabayev, right? Had the injury against Tatsuro Taira, but how good is Taira, right? Was able to stop Mateos Nicolau, Mo Makayev. Like, he's fought some of the best guys in the world. This fight for me is kind of tricky because I think Perez is the better grappler. And I do think if he's able to get Sumudaerji down, Sumudaerji is going to be in more danger to where Perez can start to look for some ground and pound. He can start to work for some submissions. But what really kind of gives me a little bit more of a sign that Sumudaerji is going to win this fight is we know Perez has really good leg kicks. But with Sumudaerji being a southpaw and this being an open stance battle where Perez is the orthodox style fighter, it's not as easy to land the leg kicks. You got to kind of throw the switch kick, because if you throw with the rear leg, you're almost going to be going, shin to shin here. I think Sumudaerji is the cleaner striker. I think he's faster on the feet. He's got more of a dynamic arsenal, but Perez is a dog, man. He's 34. He's been around for a while. He's shown some good durability despite, the injury where Teixeira took his back and I think he blew his knee out in that fight. He's a very well-rounded fighter. I think he's more well-rounded by Sumudaerji, but I think that Sumudaerji is going to be able to stop some of these takedowns. He's going to be able to keep Perez at the edge of his shots. He's going to be able to outstrike him and get this one done by a close, I'll say 29-28 decision. I could even see it being split, but I think Sumudaerji is going to get this thing done, man. I feel like at 30 years of age, he's one of those guys that started to make some corrections, and once you start to really figure out when you're the striker how to stop these takedowns, how to see, the shots coming and how to deal with these kinds of things, I feel like your confidence starts to grow. You're not as worried about being taken down. And that's what I think we're seeing from Sumudaerji, to where he's really starting to open up on the feet. He's got a really good jab, a nasty left hand behind it, some good kicks as well, good footwork. I think he can walk Perez into some shots and utilize that reach. So Perez has got some power. He's very dangerous. I think it's a competitive fight, but I'm going to side with the speedster and the more technical, rangy striker here in Sumudaerji, who's very much impressed me over his past several fights and the improvements that we have seen in his game. But Perez is very dangerous as well. This is a great fight. I like this matchup. Next up, we got Jake Matthews versus Carlston Harris. Now, I think that this was supposed to be Jake Matthews versus Muslim Salikov. Now, I think that Muslim Salikov was a more dangerous fight for Jake Matthews, because even though Salikov is up there in age, he's still very, very dangerous. His power's not went anywhere, so it's like Jake Matthews is going to have to be careful closing the distance, and, if he could outstrike Salikov, frustrate him with speed, mixing the grappling, I was still going to lean in the direction of Matthews getting the job done. Not only is Carlston Harris stepping in on a shorter notice here, but this guy, to me, ever since the loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov 4 years ago, I feel like we just haven't seen the same fighter. And I know he outscored, was able to outwork Jared Gooden and get it done on the cards. I know he subbed Jeremiah Wells, which is a solid victory. I just don't think he's been the same guy, man, right? Got brutally KO'd by Chaos Williams, which I know Chaos is a beast, right? So no harm, no foul. Crazy fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio, to where it was like, two older guys, someone's getting knocked out, right? That was kind of the view on that fight. Carlston Harris is not really a slouch. Now, I will say this. I think he's slowed down a lot. I don't think he's the same guy, but he's still kind of dangerous. He has some power on the feet. He does have a solid, grappling game. He does have some submission skills. This comes down to me of what version of Jake Matthews are we going to see? Because Jake Matthews, to me, is one of the most inconsistent fighters we've ever seen in the UFC. One fight, Jake Matthews looks like he could be some sort of contender. And then the next fight, it's like, is this dude about to get cut from the UFC? Like, what the hell was that? Right? That's basically Jake Matthews' show. Right? But at the end of the day, right, Michael Morales, no harm, no foul. That dude's the my player, the unicorn of this weight class, right? He's just an absolute destroyer, right? So no harm, no foul there. And the fact that he went to a decision participation trophy, because Morales is super dangerous, right? Was able to outwork Phil Rowe. Very impressive. Francisco Prado, sub Chidi and Njokuani. We picked him to win this fight by sub, and Chidi's dangerous on the feet. More dangerous than Carlston Harris, right? And he basically won this fight against Neil Magny, had the submission, and then they were like, no, just kidding. Fight again. And then, the adrenaline dump, all those things, and then he's in there with one of the all-time legends in Neil Magny, man, the crafty, savvy son of a gun, Neil Magny, and he was able to get it done. I think this is pretty cut and dry. If Jake Matthews wants to win this fight, he comes in motivated, comes in with the right mindset, and is ready to rock and roll, this is Jake Matthews' fight to lose. And I think he should get a finish in this fight. But I got trust issues with Jake Matthews and what version of him we are going to see show up. And Carlston Harris is good on the mat, not an easy guy to put away, with the submission skills. And on the feet, not that, he is a little bit chinny to where I could see Jake knocking him out, but I'm going to side on, towards a decision here. But I will say, I see a world where Jake Matthews can finish him, right? He's a good boxer on the feet. He's got good movement. I think he'll be faster than Harris. But like I said, Jake's just so inconsistent, man. So inconsistent to where it's like one fight, he looks like a world beater, and the next, it's like some of the decision-making, some of the, choices that are being made to where I think he should get a finish in this fight. And I think if he does, probably a round 2 ground and pound stoppage, right? Maybe he can be a guy that can get to the back of Harris and find some sort of sub. I think that Jake Matthews should finish this fight. But given what we've seen from him, sometimes he's hot and cold. I'm going to side with a 30-27 dominant performance by Jake in this fight. It's short notice for Harris. Yeah, Harris is dangerous, but I just don't think he's the same guy that he was a few years ago. Jake's almost 32. He's been in the game for a while, grown up in the UFC. He's got good striking. His boxing is better than Harris. He's the more well-rounded striker. I think he's better on the mat than Harris, but we've seen Harris is no slouch there either. So I'll say Jake Matthews by decision, a very convincing one, sweep across the cards. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets some sort of stoppage. But he's got to be careful because even though Harris is older and I think in a sense washed, he's still a dangerous guy to where if he can land a shot or catch him in some sort of scramble, he could still find a way to finish the fight. So interesting matchup, but I think Jake Matthews gets it done. He's the one that's had the camp, was prepared for a very dangerous guy in Salikov. I think he gets this one done. Next, we got Kai Asakura versus Cameron Smotherman. Dude, I can't wait for this fight. I really like Kai Asakura. I'm a big Kai Asakura fan. I was really excited when the UFC signed him. And he hasn't looked particularly good in the UFC. Now, having said that, who's he been in there with, right? He got thrown into a title shot in the flyweight division. That's important to note because we're going to talk about that in a second against Alexandre Pantoja. And I knew Pantoja was going to run him over. Like, Pantoja is one of, if not the greatest flyweight of all time, right? Super dominant game, very chaotic on the feet, tons of power, good ground game. And what we've seen is if you are strong, you have a good ground game, you can mix it up, and you can get Kai Asakura to the deck, he's going to have a problem with really good grapplers. And that's exactly what happened against Tim Elliott, right? He was landing some good shots on the feet. Elliott was able to get him down and was able to submit him. And that's been really the hole in Asakura's game. But really the caveat, I think that's the right word to use here, right? The thing that's interesting to me is this is a guy that was at bantamweight. That is his weight class, right? So he was fighting at flyweight, and I understand the UFC signs you. You know, you got a ton of hype. You know, he's very popular on social media. His YouTube channel, I think he's got like over 1 million subscribers, so he's a star. Like, Kai Asakura is a star, man. But to me, I feel like he was, I'm not taking anything away from Pantoja or Elliott. I still think those guys beat him regardless because of their grappling skills. But I can't help but feel like Kai was like diminishing himself, and draining himself. I saw this guy at UFC 319. He's a big guy. And I was like, I'm surprised that this dude's making the flyweight division. So here, him going up to the bantamweight division, I think his cardio will be better. I think that he will have more confidence in himself because he's not draining himself from the weight cut. He's able to train better because he's not so focused on dieting down to make the weight. I mean, he's still got to cut weight, but not in the same way, to get down to 125. And I think in this fight, this is a perfect matchup for Asakura to get back in the win column, because if you watch him over in Ryzen, people forget, man, right? Because he lost to a couple of really good grapplers. Kai Asakura is explosive on the feet, nasty striking, really good timing, a dangerous flying knee, and I feel like he can really, really open up on the feet in this matchup because he doesn't have to worry about Cameron Smotherman dominating him on the deck. And that would be very shocking to me if Cameron Smotherman just took Asakura down and out-grappled him. I mean, that would be a smart game plan for Cameron, but I don't think he can do it. And even if he could, I think that will wear on his gas tank, because if you're basically a striker, because Smotherman's got some solid boxing, that's what he's known for. If you try to grapple more than you normally do, in your fights, you're going to end up fatiguing yourself most likely, right? And what we've seen from Smotherman, right, looked impressive in Fury, was able to get it done over Jake Hadley, lost to Siri City. This was kind of a disaster. City's got that long frame, was able to tag him from range, mix in the grappling as well. Had some issues with the grappling of Ricky Simone, but Simone's a good wrestler. I think this is the perfect fight for Kai Asakura to come out here and show out and get the job done. I really like Kai Asakura. I think he shows out in this performance, man. I think people forget, man, Kai Asakura is dangerous, dude. Knocking out Juan Archuleta, very impressive, right? A teammate of TJ Dillashaw. He's got a well-rounded game, right? Knocked out Kyoji Horiguchi, I believe, as well. He's been in there with some really good fighters over in Ryzen. So I know that this is the UFC. I like him at bantamweight. I understand coming in at flyweight, right? They're going to give you a title shot. So, of course, you're like, my debut title shot? Whatever weight class, man. Heavyweight, fine. But I think Kai is dangerous. He's fast. Smotherman, maybe the more technical boxer, you could say, in terms of the combinations, ripping to the body, bringing shots around the guard. I don't think he's going to out-grapple Kai. That would be surprising to me. Kai's gas tank, I think, will be better at 135 and not, having to worry about like a super dominant grappling threat. I think that's going to allow Kai to open up and be that explosive striker that we saw over in Ryzen. We saw moments against Elliott. We saw moments against Pantoja. We saw that flying knee that he almost, I can't remember if he landed it or if it grazed Pantoja, but I think that he's going to break that out in this fight to where he can land a good right hand, maybe even land a knee in close. I think Kai Asakura stops Cameron Smotherman at some point in this fight, and I'm going to say he comes out like a bat out of hell, gets right in his face. Happy to be here, man. Happy at 135, feeling better, and just puts away Cameron Smotherman before he can even get a chance to get a feel for the fight. I think Smotherman's a solid fighter, but at 28 years of age, I feel like he's got some room for improvement in his game, where Kai's a guy that, he's 32. It hasn't looked great in the UFC, but again, really, really good grapplers. And I know that this might be a crazy take, but I think that Tim Elliott and Pantoja could both be Cameron Smotherman, even though Smotherman's like an established bantamweight. So I think Asakura, this is his weight class. I think he schools Cameron Smotherman and puts him away either round 1 or round 2. His striking is explosive. Good leg kicks. Mixes up the shots well. That flying knee's super dangerous. I like Kai Asakura, man. I hope he gets it done. I think he's a super entertaining fighter. Next, we got Sergey Pavlovich versus Taliesin Teixeira. Did you guys hear that? Boom. This is the Hunger Games type of fight. And I know that a lot of people are saying, why in the world did Taliesin Teixeira get this opportunity? Why does this guy keep getting to fight ranked fighters? He's coming off of a blubbery slob fest against Tai Tuivasa. Hot take, I think that's exactly why the UFC booked this fight. I think they're like, Taliesin, Tai Tuivasa's washed. You can't go out there and knock him out. You can't go out there and finish him. You're supposed to be this hyped up, 6'7", 83-inch reach, 26-year-old Brazilian prospect. You're supposed to be scary, man. You were on Dana White's Contender Series. You got a nasty KO. Ran across and starched Junior Tafa with an elbow. And then, this was kind of a weird stoppage, but still Derek Lewis knocks his ass out. Right? And then this performance against Tuivasa, I think the UFC was like, the hell with this guy, man. Put him in there with the fridge. My favorite heavyweight, Sergey Pavlovich. I call him the fridge, man, because this dude, all it does is he looks like he lifts weights, man. He's a big, strong guy in the heavyweight division. And I think he's the most technical all-around boxer at heavyweight. And I know Aspinall's got the good one, too. He was able to knock out Pavlovich. I understand that. But in terms of the boxing, the uppercuts, the hooks, the setups, the combos, I think Sergey is the best boxer in this weight class. And I think this is the UFC saying, F you, Teixeira. We're throwing you in there with, we're feeding you to Big Pav, dog. I think Pavlovich is knocking this guy out, man, in the very first round. Look, Sergey Pavlovich is a monster. He just is. And I know it's been a while since we've seen Sergey Pavlovich get a knockout, right? Decision with Rosenstrike, decision with Waldo, but how good is Waldo? That's a win that's aged very, very well, right? Got destroyed, picked apart by Volkov, but we know Volkov, one of the best heavyweights of all time, right? 3 years ago, brutally KOing Curtis Blades, ran over Tai Tuivasa like Teixeira couldn't do. I like Teixeira, man. He's young. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's training over with Alex Pineda and Glover and those guys, and he's got the frame. Maybe he's going to come out and throw a bunch of calf kicks from working with Alex, which would be a smart game plan because Sergey's in that very bladed, boxing-oriented stance to where we saw Volkov pick him apart with kicks. The problem is Teixeira's got tall man defense. He moves well for, a heavyweight. His gas tank, it's not great, but it's better than a lot of the other blobs in the heavyweight division, right? He's not a blob, right? I know he's not, the best heavyweight out there, but at least he's got some skills. He throws good straight punches down the middle. I know I'm ripping on him a little bit because it was that disgrace performance against Tuivasa. Like Tuivasa and Louis Sutherland going out there and flopping around on the floor, rolling around like a bunch of wet seals. Like, I expect that from Sutherland and Tuivasa. I don't expect that from this dude. I expected him to, go out there and put it on Tuivasa, man, Sergey Pavlovich, it's like, you could say, well, why is Teixeira getting this opportunity? And maybe he could go out there and fluke Pavlovich, which would be absolutely insane, but it ain't happening. The fridge, Pavlovich, one of the best heavyweights in the world, super dangerous boxing, outstanding power in his hands, rips to the body very, very well. And I think Pavlovich, he could possibly even out-grapple Taliesin in this fight. And Pavlovich, we've seen his gas tank is good, despite being a very, muscular guy, which tends to slow some guys down, especially at heavyweight. His gas tank is pretty good. He fights behind the jab well, and if he lands on Teixeira, he's putting him away. Teixeira's got that chin waving around up in the air, hit me, hit me, hit me, and Pavlovich is like, no problem, dog, boom. And I think he's going to throw a left hook to the body, right hand right around the, a little bit of the longer guard that Teixeira likes to play. And we're going to see Sergey put this dude away, man. Listen, I really believe that the UFC, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, I feel like they're like, man, F you, man. F you. Yeah, how are you going to do that with Tai Tuivasa, dog? They're like, we're going to feed you to Pavlovich. Pavlovich is scary, man. People forget, man. Pavlovich, I know it's been a while since he's gotten a KO, but he's super dangerous, very powerful. He's got fast hands. And I like the fridge, man. He's got an underrated grappling skill set as well, to where I think he could, out-grapple Teixeira if he needed to. I know Teixeira's grappling isn't necessarily horrible, but he slowed down in the Tai Tuivasa fight. You do that against Pavlovich, you're most certainly getting knocked out. I think Pavlovich is going to be a shark that smells blood in the water here early. I think he stings Teixeira. You're going to see Teixeira get a little bit discouraged, trying to run away. That's where Pavlovich is going to be able to, find a way to get him out of there early with the boxing combos. But like I said, maybe Teixeira flukes him, man, right? Been working with Poatan. Maybe the left hook is a little bit different now. Maybe the calf kicks become a problem. But I don't think so. I think Pavlovich runs him over. I think that this is kind of a layup for Pavlovich and probably my most confident pick on the card. And a little bit biased, man, because I like Pavlovich. He's my favorite heavyweight. I think he's fun. And I like his no BS approach. But either way, bias to the side, I think he destroys and wrecks Taliesin Teixeira. This is the Hunger Games fight. The cannon will sound, and then we'll hear the... Pavlovich is knocking him out. That was a good whistle, by the way. Oh, man. Boy, oh, boy. We've arrived at the co-main event of the evening. We got the goal line fumbler. Zhang Mingyang, dog. Zhang Mingyang with the ultimate fumble of all fumbles in China against Johnny Walker. Everyone on planet Earth was convinced that the UFC was setting up Zhang Mingyang to get a free KO, a highlight. It was all about a showcase fight for Zhang Mingyang. And then Johnny Walker pulled out his inner Hamzat. Like a little fake glove touch, shoots the double leg. It was a disaster, right? Ends up on bottom. But as the fight was playing out, I'm like, wait a minute. Actually, I think that this is smart from Johnny Walker, because Zhang Mingyang's one of these guys where if he can't get you out of there early, we've seen him tend to slow down and have problems. So I'm like, this is actually probably smart by Walker. Drag the fight out by any means necessary, which is exactly what happened. And then we didn't know that Zhang Mingyang had never seen a calf kick before. If I would have known that, I would have been like, hey, dog, I don't know if I'm picking him in that fight. He had never seen a calf kick. Johnny Walker just kept spamming calf kicks from range. He would run away, play behind the long arm, boom, calf kick. And Zhang Mingyang's limping around, and then he basically just folded, due to calf kicks. That's concerning. Very, very concerning. But everything that we have seen coming into the fight, right, ran through Tucos, Brendison Ribeiro, Ozzy Diaz, Anthony Smith, right, curled him up into a ball. Right? And I think that was Anthony Smith's last fight, which basically they were sacrificing Anthony Smith to Zhang Mingyang. Zhang Mingyang should win this fight. He has to win this fight. And if you're asking me who has the most pressure on them on this entire fight card, I think it's Zhang Mingyang, dude. Because if you lose to Johnny Walker like that, who I know had a close, boring fight with Dominic Reyes, and look, I know maybe we overlook Johnny Walker a little bit. Johnny Walker's one of the most chinny fighters in all of the UFC. He's got the chinny chin, right? Like if you go, Johnny Walker, KO'd. So the fact that you couldn't do that is very concerning. But the positive is in this fight, Alonzo Menifield doesn't have the kind of style that Johnny Walker does, right? I don't think that Menifield has like a crafty, game plan that he's going to bring into this fight where he's going to shoot a takedown, try to drag this out. Menifield's one of these guys that, they call him atomic for a reason. Like if this dude, I think he was a football player, right? And, you could see it, right? He's got crazy power to where if he could loop that big old right hand that he likes to throw, he could definitely clip Zhang Mingyang and put him away because Zhang's defense isn't that good. But we've seen Menifield get bullied early in fights, right? And if you look through his track record over his past 5, right? Tried to bum rush Olberg, which maybe not the best approach, but, I guess he was like, well, I'm just going to get outstruck, so I might as well just take my chances, right? So in a way, maybe a smart approach there, but, got destroyed. Azamat Mirzakhanov destroyed him, but again, two of the best fighters in the weight class. Disastrous slob fest, just slob. I mean, it was a terrible fight with Julius Walker, right? Beat Umar Sy, went to a decision, but, Umar Sy was having moments, and we're seeing that Umar Sy's kind of a fraud. Right, got brutally KO'd by Volkan Oezdemir and melted to pressure. And I know Oezdemir is very underrated. He's actually really good. Zhang Mingyang has to win this fight. And I think he does. I think he runs over Alonzo Menifield in the very first round and gets the KO. But if that doesn't happen, Alonzo Menifield is going to win the fight. He just is. And the thing that concerns me is Menifield, he's been in there with some heavy hitters. So even if he gets tagged, he knows how to kind of shell up, hang out along the fence, wait, duck, move, and then try to counter with a big shot to where maybe he could bait Zhang into hunting him down, and then he can time a big shot on the way in. I think someone gets finished in this fight, but I'm going to lean towards Zhang Mingyang. I think that'll throw, nasty low kicks. That'll kind of stop the movement of Menifield, trap him along the fence. That's where Zhang has to pick his shots well. Don't just recklessly try to, close him down to where Menifield can land a shot. Zhang's a more technical striker. He's got, better combinations, in my opinion. It just comes down to the fact that Menifield is explosive. And I know his gas tank's been a little bit questionable, but I think he's got a better gas tank than Zhang does. And we've seen Menifield, if the fight drags out, we've seen him be a guy that can really dog it out in those kinds of fights compared to a guy like Zhang Mingyang. But like I said, I think the most pressure on a fighter on this entire card, in my opinion, is Zhang Mingyang. When you do that against Johnny Walker, and you're like, everyone thinks you're going to win the fight, and then it's just that kind of performance where you basically melt to calf kicks, it's not a particularly good look. Like, credit to Johnny Walker, it was a good performance by him, but I'm just saying, this is a fight that the UFC's hoping he wins, right? Menifield, a guy that's, not probably going to out-grapple Zhang, not going to out-technique him on the feet. Maybe he tries to throw a bunch of leg kicks like Walker did. Hopefully, Zhang will be prepared for that this time. I think he will be. And I think that we've seen Zhang, if he can let his hands go, back you up, and just kind of be that bulldozer, he can put a lot of guys away. I think he can put away a almost 39-year-old Alonzo Menifield, to me, who looks like he is slowed down just a little bit. I think Zhang can get this one done and get that highlight reel KO to be back in a big way. Give me Zhang Mingyang to get this one done. Last but not least, we have arrived at our main event of the evening, and if you guys are enjoying this video, if you could please do me a favor, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and also hype the video. I would greatly appreciate it, man. All right, main event time. We got Song Yadong versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Big showcase opportunity here for Song. And again, another guy that's got some pressure here because Song is 28 years of age. He's in here against a guy who's basically a legend of the flyweight division. I'm not saying that Figueiredo is like a top all-time fighter, but I definitely think he's, maybe like a top 50 guy. But like he's one of the better flyweights of all time. And his resume is very, very impressive. He's been in there with some of the best flyweights in the world. He's been in there with some of the best bantamweights in the world, right? And what we know about Figueiredo is, 38 years of age. We've seen some of the signs of slowing down, but I'll caution you, even when we want to say maybe he's slowing down, who is he losing to? Umar Nurmagomedov, Corey Sandhagen, to where they got in the 50-50 position and he injured his knee, and Petr Yan. Three of the best in the world, right? Three incredibly skilled fighters, very, very high-level fighters, man. Right, so it's not like he's losing to anybody, like to any scrubs in the bantamweight division. And the guys that aren't the top of the weight class, he's destroyed them. Right, he dropped Marlon Chito Vera. I think the only guy to ever do it. Outstruck him on the feet, picked him apart. Right, we saw the Montel Jackson fight, had to break out the grappling, but what's kind of concerning, and the fact is, Hadi Barcelos has been underrated for a while. We picked Barcelos to beat Jackson. I thought that Barcelos beat Jackson more impressive than Figueiredo did, right? Jackson was giving him a little bit of pause on the feet, so Figueiredo mixed in the grappling, was able to control him on the deck. Figueiredo had a great performance against Rob Font, was able to rock him on the feet a couple times, was able to take down Cody Garbrandt, dominate him, and able to submit him, and that's very impressive. I know Garbrandt, he was the greatest fighter probably of all time for one night when he fought Cruz in the title fight, right? Was styling on Dominic Cruz, and, it feels like Garbrandt hasn't been the same guy since the Dillashaw fights. But what do we know about Garbrandt? Nearly impossible to hold down. A scrambly rascal, man. One of the most difficult dudes to hold down. Figueiredo had no problem doing it. Garbrandt started to land some shots on the feet. Figgy landed some shots, was able to take him down, get to his back, and submit him. I think the better jiu-jitsu fighter, the guy with the better jiu-jitsu here is clearly Figgy. And I think in this fight, he's going to look to grapple. He's going to look to grapple. And I know that on the feet, Figueiredo's got that long, Henry Cejudo kind of style karate stance, very wide base. He's kind of, moving around, trying to snake charm you, and then boom, he'll snipe that right hand down the middle. He'll start to let those uppercuts fly. His hands are down. He's got big power. It's carried over pretty well to the bantamweight division. But I feel like in this fight, it's kind of a bad stylistic matchup for him. Because I don't think he's knocking out Song. We know Song is very historically durable. The only time I think that he's really been stopped, at least as of late, was the Corey Sandhagen fight, which was because of a cut, if I'm not mistaken. Song's very durable. He's got really, really good cardio. He's got excellent boxing skills, and he's got really, really good takedown defense. Training over at Team Alpha Male, his wrestling offensively has gotten very good. It's not to say that he couldn't take down Figueiredo and out-grapple him, which would be very impressive, which I'm not ruling that out at all. But I don't think that that's where Song wants to play this game, because I think that if Figueiredo is going to win, we know that his output isn't very good. Song will be the guy that's being more active and busier with the striking. He's going to have more power, in my opinion, on the feet with the boxing. Even though Figueiredo's got that nasty right hand to where he could catch Song and sting him, I think Song is a guy that starts to build into these fights. And I feel like Song, in a way, is built for these 5-round fights. I feel like he's built for these 5-round fights. So Figueiredo, to me, is going to look to snipe with the right hand. He's going to look to get a hold of Song, trip him, take him down. We've seen when he could get to the body lock, get in close. He's got good trips, good ways to get you down on the mat, to where if that does happen and Song is flat on his back, he's going to have to be very, very careful, because Figueiredo does have very, very good submission skills. Very good submission skills. But I feel like this is the perfect showcase fight for Song Yadong, because kind of similar to, Figueiredo, flyweight champion, the crazy fights, the wars with Brandon Moreno. So it's a little bit different because he has been a champion. But given what we've seen in the bantamweight division, Song's kind of in the same boat, right? He'll stunt on a Ricky Simon and put him away. He'll stunt on a Chris Gutierrez. But he'll have some moments against Petr Yan, but then Yan's just too good. Right? Against Henry Cejudo, we saw Cejudo landing some shots, but at the end of the day, the eye poke, that whole ordeal, but we saw Song landing some good shots. Right? This fight was Sean O'Malley. A lot of people thought that Song won this fight. I thought it was very close to where I'm like, man, I don't know what way this went. I did lean O'Malley because of the precision on the feet with the striking. To me, it comes down to, at bantamweight, when Davison is in there with Petr Yan, there's almost no moments he gets dominated. Against Corey Sandhagen, he basically gets dominated. Against Umar Nurmagomedov, Umar did whatever he wanted. Outstruck him on the feet, dominated him on the ground, to where Song, when he's in there, he's having moments against these guys. I think he's taken, the first round against Petr Yan. He's taking a round, I believe, off of Sean O'Malley. He's having moments. He's got good leg kicks, good output, nasty boxing. His wrestling is really, really good, to where I think Figueiredo, outside of the right hand, Song's much better on the feet, can mix in the kicks, the low kicks as well, can be busier with the striking. And I feel like at some point, Figueiredo is going to start to slow down, to where it's going to look like Song can put him away. And maybe he does. But I am going to lean towards Song winning this one by a decision. I think that this is one of those fights where Davison will have early success. He's getting up there in age. We've seen in these fights, while he's fighting the best guys in the world, to me, he looks, I don't want to say like a complete shell of himself, but I do believe that he's slowed down a little bit. And if you're slowing down a little bit coming into a fight with, a prime Song Yadong who's really been, looking impressive, even in the fights that he's not winning, he's having moments against Yan. He's having moments against Sean O'Malley. And to me, Song is kind of like the Arnold Allen of the bantamweight division. I'm not saying because of their fighting styles, they fight completely different, but it's the fact, kind of different, right? But it's the fact that they're both really, really high-level guys. They just don't beat that elite X-Factor type of fighter of those couple guys in the weight class that are ahead of them. That's how I look at Song Yadong in this weight class, in a sense, right? He's super good, can beat a lot of guys in this weight class, but those few at the top, that's where he struggles, and he just can't get past those guys. Can have those competitive fights, those close moments, but I feel like this is the kind of fight that he wins. And I think that if Figueiredo does slow down, he's a little bit older. The gas tank has looked a little bit suspect to me, especially in the bantamweight division. I feel like it's possible Song can put him away and get a TKO stoppage in like the mid to later rounds for sure. Maybe he could catch Figueiredo with a shot early. I don't think that, listen, we've seen, Davison's very durable himself throughout his career, right? We saw Brandon, I think he landed like the punch to the eye or whatever it was. So it's very rare that we see Figueiredo get stopped. Both guys are durable. I think Song's gas tank is better. He's got more output. I think his boxing is better. His takedown defense will be good enough to, fight off the grappling onslaught that I think Figgy's going to look to bring to the table. And I think Song can easily outstrike him on the feet, especially as the fight starts to go on, and his gas tank will be better to where he can put Figueiredo in a ton of danger and box him up and get this one done and put on a very impressive performance in China. Showcase type of fight for Song. You got Figueiredo, who's older, feels like he's, heading in the direction of on the way out. The UFC's throwing him in here against Song, to where it's a big opportunity for Davison, because if he could get a big win over Song, now he's knocking on the door of the top 5 and kind of keeps, the ball rolling in the bantamweight division. But I feel like this is that fight where Song's in his prime. They're kind of, putting him in there, Figueiredo in there to test him. But I think that this is a good matchup for Song. Better on the feet. His takedown defense will be good enough. I think this is a very difficult fight for Davison Figueiredo. Not going to count him out because we've seen he's very, very good, and I think he's one of the best flyweights ever, but I got to go Song here. So if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. I'll see you next time.